Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. President Donald Trump calls on Israel to reach an agreement with Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Jerusalem is open to an agreement with Damascus, but guarantees Israel's national security interests are preserved. Israeli President Isaac Herzog says he will weigh Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plight for a pardon seriously. U.S. Special Envoy for Syria, Ambassador Tom Barrack, met with Damascus's de facto leader, President Ahmed al-Shara, during the course of which the two were said to discuss the latest developments in the region and issues of common interests. The visit coincided with a statement published by President Donald Trump in which he announced, quote, "The United States is very satisfied with the results displayed through hard work and determination in the country of Syria." The president then stressed that his administration is doing everything within its power to make sure the government of Syria continued to do what was intended, which Washington regards as substantial, in order to build a true and prosperous country. President Trump continued by pointing at his decision to terminate sanctions against Syria as one of the things that helped them greatly. Separately, amid continued tensions between Israel and Damascus over the latter's refusal to establish a buffer zone and grant protection to the Druze and Christian minorities in southern Syria, President Trump stressed, quote, "It is very important that Israel maintain a strong and true dialogue with Syria and that nothing take place that will interfere with Syria's evolution into a prosperous state." The American leader went on to insist that the new president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, is working diligently to make sure good things happen and that both Syria and Israel will have a long and prosperous relationship together. He went on to proclaim, quote, "This is a historic opportunity and adds to the success already attained for peace in the Middle East." It is important to point out that Damascus continues to besiege the southern region of Sweda, where roughly 550,000 Druze and Christian populations reside. Damascus's aim is to so-called choke the region into submission, refusing any guarantees of freedom of worship or any other type of concession that does not converge with Islamic laws. To date, the people of Sweda continue to stand firm in their refusal to succumb to the Islamist diktats of Damascus, particularly after its jihadist forces committed a massacre against the Druze and Christians, murdering over 2,000 individuals and kidnapping hundreds others. Meanwhile, Israel demands that Damascus open a humanitarian corridor into Sweda from Syria's Golan Heights to grant the Druze and Christian communities crucial humanitarian relief. Nevertheless, Damascus continues to refuse any such corridor, claiming fears that Israel would exploit such a humanitarian corridor to decentralize Syria. Moreover, in an attempt to project national solidarity with Damascus's position, President Ahmed al-Shara called for a day of national unity in which thousands of regime supporters in territories under its control flooded the streets, calling for a one Syria. Meanwhile, during Shah's military procession in Damascus, his so-called reformed military were captured, chanting a call for jihad against Israel.
Khaybar, Khaybar, ya Yahud!
Khaybar, Khaybar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will soon return. Khaybar, Khaybar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will soon return.
It is important to explain that the chant refers to the Battle of Khaybar of 628 AD, in which the Muslim revered Prophet Muhammad and his followers triumphed in a decisive battle against Jewish tribes living in the oasis of Khaybar, which is located in present-day Saudi Arabia. The Jewish tribes living there were either murdered, fled, or were subjugated and forced to pay tribute after their defeat. In contemporary Arab and Islamist protests, The chant is used as an explicit threat against Jews at large and the State of Israel in particular, as it implies that what happened to the Jews of Haibar at the hands of Muhammad's army will happen again, namely, Jews will be defeated, subjugated, or murdered. Recognizing those intentions by Damascus's forces, albeit they too weak to execute their intentions today, Israel has nonetheless launched near-daily intelligence-driven raids against jihadist and Islamist terror cells throughout southern Syria. One of those raids, which the IDF executed on Friday, aimed to apprehend two suspected terror operatives of the Lebanese Jama'ah Islamiyah, an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood that had fought alongside Hezbollah in Lebanon against Israel during the Seven-Front War since October 8th of 2023. However, the IDF troops came under fire when members of Damascus's internal intelligence forces executed an ambush during the course of which many of Syria's forces engaged were either eliminated or wounded. Separately, 6 IDF paratroopers were also injured in the incident, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited them today to wish them a speedy recovery personally, while hearing a first-hand recount of the battle that took place in Syria's village of Beit Shan.
I am here with our wounded IDF heroes after our last operation in Syria. After October 7th, we are determined to protect our communities on our borders, including on the northern border, and to prevent the establishment of terrorists and hostile actions against us, to protect our Druze allies, and to ensure that the State of Israel will be safe from a ground attack and other attacks from the areas adjacent to the border.
In an apparent response to President Donald Trump's statement, Prime Minister Netanyahu further expressed Israel's unwavering position in accordance with Jerusalem's post-October 7th doctrine.
What we expect Syria to do is, of course, establish a demilitarized buffer zone from Damascus to the buffer zone, to include the slopes of Mount Hermon and the peak of Mount Hermon. 2. We hold these territories to ensure the security of Israeli citizens, and this is what obliges us. In good faith and understanding of these principles, it is also possible to reach an agreement with the Syrians, but we will stand by our principles in any case.
Turning to a domestic issue of importance, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, after gaining tailwind from President Donald Trump, has officially requested from President Isaac Herzog a pardon after 6 years of facing trial on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust, allegations Netanyahu vehemently denies.
Dear citizens of Israel, time and again I was elected in democratic election and received your trust to continue to rule as the Prime Minister of Israel, to, first and foremost, allow me to realize these historic goals. For these reasons, my lawyers filed today a pardon request to the state's president. I expect that anyone who wishes for the good of the country support this step.
Netanyahu continued by stressing the court's decision to force him to now appear 3 times a week before a court, which he stressed was no less than a witch hunt aimed at crippling his capacity to serve as prime minister at a crucial period of geostrategic significance.
My personal interest was, and still is, to continue with the legal process to its end until a full acquittal on all charges. But the security and political reality, the national interest, those demand otherwise. The State of Israel faces great challenges alongside great opportunities. In order to push away the threats and realize the opportunities, a national unity is required. The continuation of the trial is tearing us apart from the inside, is stirring heated controversies, intensifies rifts. I am sure, like many others among the people, that the immediate end of the trial will help a lot in lowering the flames and in promoting a wide reconciliation that our country needs so much.
Israel's opposition leader immediately responded to Netanyahu's request, demanding he resign before getting any type of presidential pardon.
אני קורא מפה לנשיא הרצוג.
From here, I call on President Herzog. You cannot pardon him without an admission of guilt, an expression of remorse, and an immediate retirement from the political life.
מיידית מהחיים הפוליטיים.
President Isaac Herzog has responded to Prime Minister Netanyahu's request for a pardon.
סוגיית הפנייה לחנינה.
The issue of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's appeal for a pardon, it is clear to me that it shakes a great many people in the country, in the various publics, and it provokes debate. But I have already clarified and said that it will be handled in the most correct and precise manner. I will consider only the good of the Israeli state and society, and before my eyes only the state of Israel and its good. One thing is clear to me, violent discourse does not affect me. On the contrary, respectful discourse definitely provokes discussion and provokes discourse. And I invite the Israeli public to the President's House website, the House of the Nation, to express their opinion and respond accordingly.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I'd like to immediately encourage you to pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters globally, as well as for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach. Until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.